Hey there, welcome to the channel. If you're looking for the perfect way to unwind and drift off to sleep, you're in the right place. Tonight, we've got a whole hour of some of the most interesting and emotional Reddit stories from crazy family. Dramas to heartwarming moments to help you relax and escape the day. So get comfortable, let go of your worries, and let these stories carry you into a peaceful sleep. Don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoy this, and make sure to subscribe for more stories to relax to in the future. Now let's get started and dive into tonight's tales. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and let's fall asleep together. Enjoy. I, 27F, have always considered myself a loyal and supportive friend. I pride myself on being someone who shows up when people need me, whether it's for a shoulder to cry on, someone to vent to, or just a good laugh. My friendships mean a lot to me, and I've always tried to be the kind of person who is there for others in their time of need. One of my closest friends, Lily, 28F, and I met in college. We instantly hit it off, and over the years, we've become more like sisters than just friends. We've been through so much together: breakups, family drama, job losses, and celebrations of every milestone imaginable. We've been each other's biggest supporters, and our bond has only gotten stronger as the years have gone by. But recently, things have taken a drastic turn. I don't know how we got here, but I'm not sure if I can go back to the way things were. It all started when I started dating Ben, 29 someone I met through mutual friends. Ben is charming, funny, and caring. He's everything I've been looking for in a partner, and I felt like I finally found someone who really understood me. Lily met Ben a few weeks into our relationship, and at first everything seemed great. She was friendly with him, they would joke around, and we'd all hang out together. I didn't think anything of it. I had always been open with Lily about my relationships, and I was glad that she seemed to like him. But after a while, things started to feel off. Lily began acting strangely around Ben, and I could tell that she wasn't as enthusiastic about him as she had been at first. She became distant, making excuses not to hang out when we were all supposed to get together. At first, I thought it was just her being busy with work or life, but the behavior persisted. I decided to confront her about it. One evening, after we had spent the day together, I pulled her aside and asked if everything was okay. She was quiet at first, and I could tell she was holding something back. Finally, she admitted that she wasn't sure if she liked Ben. She said that he made her uncomfortable, and she didn't like how he looked at her sometimes. I was taken aback. Ben had never done anything inappropriate to make me question his intentions, but hearing this from Lily was unsettling. I tried to remain calm and reassured her that Ben would never intentionally make anyone uncomfortable. She seemed to brush it off and said that she was probably just being paranoid. I didn't press her further, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. Over the next few weeks, Lily's behavior continued to change. She started acting more distant with me too. She would cancel plans last minute or come up with reasons why she couldn't hang out. I could tell that something had shifted between us, but I didn't know what it was. I felt like I was losing her, and it hurt. I tried to keep things normal by texting her and making plans, but every attempt was met with more excuses. One day, I invited her to dinner with me and Ben, hoping it would help mend things, but when she showed up, she was visibly uncomfortable. She barely spoke to Ben and kept her responses short. It was obvious that the tension between them had grown, and I didn't know what to do. I tried to keep the conversation flowing, but it was awkward. By the end of the night, Lily made an excuse to leave early. That's when I decided to have another conversation with her. I asked her directly what was going on, and this time she didn't hesitate. She confessed something that completely shocked me. She told me that she had developed feelings for Ben. She said that she knew it was wrong, but she couldn't help it. She had been trying to suppress her feelings for months, but they were only getting stronger. She said that she didn't know how to handle it, and it was making her feel guilty. I was speechless. I had never expected this, and it hit me like a punch to the gut. I asked her why she hadn't told me sooner, why she hadn't been honest about her feelings. She apologized and said that she didn't want to hurt me, but she also didn't want to lose me as a friend. She said that she had kept her feelings to herself because she didn't want to come between me and Ben, but now it felt like everything was falling apart. I didn't know how to respond. On one hand, I understood that feelings can be complicated, and I didn't want to shame her for having them. But on the other hand, I couldn't ignore the fact that this had completely blindsided me. Ben was someone I trusted, and I couldn't believe that Lily had been hiding this from me for so long. The more I thought about it, the angrier I became. I felt betrayed. Lily knew how important Ben was to me, and she had kept this secret for months, pretending like everything was fine when she was struggling with her own feelings. I felt like she had violated my trust by keeping something so important from me. I wasn't sure if I could continue being friends with someone who was harboring such strong feelings for my boyfriend. I told Lily that I needed space to think. She begged me not to cut her out of my life, saying that she valued our friendship more than anything. But I couldn't get past the feeling of betrayal. She had crossed a line by letting her feelings for Ben develop in the first place and then keeping it a secret from me. I told her that I needed time to figure out what I wanted. For the next week, I distanced myself from Lily. I didn't respond to her texts right away, and I avoided her calls. I spent more time with Ben, trying to process everything that had happened. I didn't want to lose my friendship with Lily, but I also couldn't ignore the fact that she had put me in an incredibly uncomfortable position. I felt like I was being forced to choose between my best friend and my boyfriend, and I didn't know what the right choice was. Eventually, Lily reached out again. She apologized for not being upfront with me sooner and said that she understood if I couldn't forgive her. She said that she wasn't asking me to end things with Ben, but she just wanted to be honest with me. She also said that she was going to take a step back from Ben and try to move on from her feelings. At first, I wasn't sure what to say. I wanted to forgive her, but part of me felt like I couldn't trust her anymore. I also knew that if I stayed friends with her, things would never be the same. The dynamic had shifted, and I couldn't ignore that. So I made the difficult decision to cut her off. I told her that I needed to move on from the friendship. It was painful, but I felt like I had no other choice. I couldn't risk losing my relationship with Ben, and I couldn't pretend like everything was okay when it wasn't. I told her that I wished her the best, but I needed to prioritize my relationship. Now I feel guilty. I feel like I might have overreacted. Was I too harsh? Did I make the right decision? I've lost a friendship that I thought would last forever, and I'm struggling to come to terms with it. Did I handle this situation the right way? Or did I let my emotions get the best of me? Am I the a-hole for cutting off my best friend after she confessed that she had feelings for my boyfriend? I, 26F, have always prided myself on being the kind of person who goes all in when it comes to relationships. When I'm committed, I give my all, emotionally, mentally, and physically. I believe in communication, honesty, and trust. So, when I started dating Mark, 28M, I thought I'd found someone who shared those same values. We met through mutual friends about a year ago, and it didn't take long for things to get serious between us. From the beginning, Mark seemed like the perfect match for me. We shared similar interests, had the same sense of humor, and our values aligned. He treated me with so much care and affection. Our relationship felt easy and natural. We went on spontaneous trips, spent weekends binge-watching our favorite shows, and had deep conversations about everything from our dreams to our fears. I genuinely thought we were building something special. Fast forward to about 8 months into our relationship, and things started to change. It started with little things. Mark would cancel plans at the last minute, and when I would ask him what was going on, he'd make excuses about being too busy with work or needing to clear his head. He didn't seem as interested in spending time together, and when we did hang out, the conversations felt forced. At first, I chalked it up to stress or him having a rough time at work. I tried to be patient, thinking it was just a temporary phase. I didn't want to overreact, but then the red flags started to pile up. He stopped texting me back as quickly as he used to, and when I'd ask him about it, he'd brush it off with, "I was busy," or "I just didn't see your message." I started to feel like I was being unreasonable by questioning him, but the changes in his behavior were undeniable. One evening, after a particularly cold week, I decided to confront him. We were sitting on the couch in his apartment, and I could feel the tension in the air. He was scrolling through his phone, barely acknowledging that I was sitting right next to him. I asked him if everything was okay because it felt like we were drifting apart. To my surprise, he didn't get defensive. He didn't even make excuses. Instead, he looked at me, sighed deeply, and said, "I think we need to talk." At that moment, my heart sank. I could feel it in my gut. Something was about to happen that I wasn't prepared for. Mark then told me that he'd been seeing someone else for the past couple of months. I was stunned. I couldn't comprehend what he was saying. He admitted that he'd started a relationship with another woman, someone he met through work, and he'd been hiding it from me. He told me he didn't know how to tell me, but he knew it was wrong and he felt guilty. He said that the relationship with her had started as a casual fling, but it had turned into something more serious. I felt like the ground beneath me had disappeared. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think straight. Mark was apologetic, but I wasn't sure if his apology was for me or because he was caught. He explained that he didn't want to hurt me, but he also didn't want to continue leading me on. He said that he had feelings for this other woman and didn't know how to end things with her. I kept asking him why he didn't come to me sooner, why he didn't just end our relationship if he was unhappy. But he kept repeating that he didn't want to hurt me and didn't know how to deal with the situation. After what felt like an eternity of silence, I finally found my voice. I asked him to leave. I couldn't be in the same space as him anymore, and I couldn't process what was happening. I told him that I needed space and that I couldn't look at him the same way anymore. He tried to explain himself, but I was done listening. I didn't want any more explanations or excuses. I just wanted him gone. He left, and I was left sitting there, numb. I couldn't understand how someone I had trusted, someone I thought was my person, could do this to me. I felt completely betrayed. I didn't know what to do with myself. My mind kept racing, replaying everything that had happened over the past few months. The distance, the excuses, the lies, it all made sense now, and I hated myself for not seeing it sooner. The days that followed were a blur. I was flooded with emotions, anger, sadness, disbelief. I couldn't stop crying. I didn't want to talk to anyone because I was embarrassed. I had trusted him with everything, and now I felt like a fool. My friends and family were supportive, but they didn't know what to say. They couldn't take away the hurt I felt. 2 weeks after Mark left, I got a text from him. It was a simple message. "I'm sorry. I miss you." I felt a mix of emotions when I saw it. I wanted to respond, wanted to tell him everything I was feeling, but I knew deep down that responding would only bring me more pain. I blocked his number without a second thought. A few days later, I ran into Mark at a mutual friend's birthday party. I wasn't expecting to see him, but there he was, standing across the room with the other woman, his new girlfriend. It hit me like a ton of bricks. Seeing them together, looking so happy, made me feel sick. I tried to avoid them, but of course, Mark noticed me. He walked over to where I was standing, and I could see that he was uncomfortable. He said that he understood if I was upset, and he was sorry for what he'd done, but he also said that he was happy now, and that he hoped we could both move on. I didn't know what to say. I stood there for a moment staring at him. I wanted to scream, to ask him how he could just move on so easily, but I held it in. Instead, I turned around and walked away. The hurt was unbearable. I wasn't just grieving the loss of the relationship. I was grieving the loss of the person I thought Mark was. I had given him my trust, and he had shattered it without a second thought. It's been several months since that night, and I still don't have all the answers. I've been focusing on myself, getting back into my hobbies, spending time with friends and working on my career. But I can't shake the feeling of betrayal. Every time I think about Mark, I wonder if I could have done something differently. I feel like I should have seen the signs, like I should have known something was wrong. But I was so wrapped up in the idea of a future with him that I missed everything that was right in front of me. I know that time will help heal this wound, but right now I'm struggling. I feel embarrassed that I let someone treat me this way, and I don't know if I'll ever fully trust again. I keep asking myself, did I do something wrong? Did I not give him enough space? Did I miss the signs that he wasn't happy? Am I the a-hole for feeling like I was completely blindsided by this betrayal? I, 31F, have always been the type of person who values loyalty above all else. I'm sure I'm not alone in this, but to me, loyalty is the foundation of any relationship, whether it's romantic, familial, or between friends. I've been fortunate to have a close-knit group of friends who feel the same way, and we've supported each other through some really tough times. But recently I've found myself questioning everything I thought I knew about loyalty and my place in this group. Let me take you back to the beginning. I met Claire, 32F, and Olivia, 30F, in college, and we quickly became inseparable. We were the kind of trio who did everything together: study sessions, late-night food runs, weekend getaways, and countless inside jokes. We were the kind of friends who knew everything about each other, shared our hopes, dreams, fears, and insecurities. For the longest time, I couldn't imagine my life without them. We all had different backgrounds, but somehow we meshed perfectly. I was the practical, responsible one, the type to plan things out, keep track of finances, and be the voice of reason in any situation. Claire was the free spirit, funny, charismatic, always the life of the party. She had this magnetic energy that drew people in. Olivia, on the other hand, was the more reserved one, but incredibly caring. She was the friend who would show up at your door with a cup of tea when you were feeling down, always knowing just the right thing to say. After graduation, we all went in different directions, but we stayed close. Claire moved to the West Coast for a job opportunity. Olivia stayed local, and I ended up moving abroad for work. The distance didn't matter, though. We still talked all the time, FaceTimed regularly, and visited each other whenever we could. We had our group chats, sent memes back and forth, and celebrated each other's milestones, big and small. But things started to shift a few years ago. It was a subtle shift at first, almost imperceptible. Olivia started dating Tom, 35mm, and things quickly got serious between them. I was happy for her. Tom seemed like a great guy, and he treated Olivia with so much respect. They were perfect for each other, and I could see how much she had changed for the better. She was glowing, more confident, and all around happier. It was beautiful to see. But then things started to change between Claire and Olivia. At first it was small things. Olivia would talk about Tom constantly, and Claire would get quiet, not contributing much to the conversation. I noticed it, but I chalked it up to the fact that Claire was always the type to be a little more sarcastic and a bit standoffish when it came to relationships. She wasn't the type to gush over boyfriends like Olivia was, but over time, the tension grew. Claire would make passive-aggressive comments about Olivia's relationship, like how obsessed she was with Tom, or how it was so cute that Olivia would let him control what they did on weekends. Olivia would get defensive, and the conversations would get awkward. It was uncomfortable, but I figured it was just growing pains, adjusting to new dynamics and relationships. Then, one night, things escalated. Claire came over to my apartment for dinner. We were catching up when the topic of Olivia's relationship came up. I expected the usual banter, but this time Claire was different. She was cold, dismissive, and downright rude about Olivia's choices. She said things like, "I don't know why Olivia lets him run the show. She's smarter than that. And it's like she's lost herself in that relationship." I could tell she was bitter about something, but I didn't understand why. I asked her if everything was okay, but she shrugged it off and changed the subject. The next day I got a call from Olivia. She was crying. She told me that Claire had sent her a long message, accusing her of being a shell of the person she used to be, and letting Tom control her life. She said Claire was hurt that Olivia wasn't prioritizing their friendship anymore, and had distanced herself since getting into the relationship. I was shocked. Olivia was upset, but I could tell she was also confused. She hadn't done anything wrong. She was in a happy, healthy relationship. Claire's message made her feel like she was being attacked for no reason, like she had to choose between her boyfriend and her friends. I tried to talk to Olivia, reassure her that she wasn't doing anything wrong, but inside I was fuming. Why was Claire acting like this? A few weeks later, I sat down with Claire to talk about what happened. She was defensive from the start. She told me that she was just looking out for Olivia, that she felt like Olivia was changing and losing herself. She claimed that Tom was too controlling, and that Olivia didn't even realize it. I tried to explain to Claire that maybe Olivia was just in a healthy, committed relationship and wasn't as available as she used to be, but that didn't mean she loved Claire any less. Claire didn't want to hear it. She kept insisting that Olivia needed to wake up and stop being blinded by love. At this point, I started feeling really torn. I could see both sides, but I also knew that Claire was being unreasonable. I told her that maybe she needed to give Olivia some space and let her be happy for a while, but Claire couldn't let it go. She started pulling away from both Olivia and me. Every time I tried to plan something with her, she'd cancel at the last minute. When I'd ask if she was okay, she'd deflect or change the subject. The breaking point came when Claire showed up to my birthday party. Olivia was there with Tom, and things were going well. Everyone was enjoying themselves. But Claire was visibly upset the entire time. She kept making snide comments under her breath about Olivia and Tom. When Olivia asked if she wanted to dance, Claire snapped at her, saying, "I don't know why you'd even want to hang out with me anymore. Since you've got him now." I couldn't take it anymore. I pulled Claire aside and told her that she needed to stop acting like this, that she was being a terrible friend, and that if she didn't get over her jealousy and bitterness, she was going to lose both me and Olivia. I told her that I couldn't keep being stuck in the middle of their issues. She started crying, saying she didn't know how to fix things and that she felt like she was losing both of us. I told her I needed time to think. That was 3 weeks ago. I haven't spoken to Claire since. I've been in constant contact with Olivia and Tom, but Claire hasn't reached out once. I know I did what I had to do to set boundaries, but now I'm questioning if I went too far. Was I too harsh on Claire? Did I betray her by siding with Olivia? I love both of them, but I can't keep putting myself in the middle of this toxic situation. Am I the a-hole for cutting off Claire to protect my friendship with Olivia? I-28F was part of a very tight-knit friend group for over a decade. It started in college. There were 6 of us. Me, my best friend Jess, 29F, our mutual friend from high school, Theo, 28M, a couple named Rachel, 30F, and Mark, 31M, and a guy named Lucas, 27M, who joined the group after college when Jess started dating him. We did everything together: vacations, birthdays, friendsgivings, summer barbecues. I honestly thought of them as family more than friends. Jess and I were especially close, like crying on the bathroom floor during breakups kind of close. She was my maid of honor when I got married to my husband Dan, 30M, 3 years ago. Lucas, her boyfriend, was always a little off to me. He was charming, but in that really polished, slightly fake way. The kind of guy who never had a hair out of place, always had a witty comeback, but never seemed genuine. But Jess was head over heels, and I supported it. She glowed when she was with him until she didn't. About a year ago, I started noticing things. Jess would show up late to hangouts, exhausted, distracted, sometimes crying and saying it was just work stress. Lucas stopped coming to group things as much, claiming he was too busy. Jess would brush it off, say he was working a lot, but her eyes always told a different story. We all suspected something was off, but didn't want to push. Then, 5 months ago, it all blew up. Jess called me in the middle of the night, sobbing. I could barely understand her. All I got was Lucas, another girl, and his phone. He lied, I saw it. I drove to her apartment immediately. She had gone through Lucas's phone while he was in the shower. She found dozens of messages between him and some woman named Ava. Explicit messages, dates, hotel bookings, even pictures. She confronted him, and he didn't deny it. In fact, he told her he had been cheating for over a year. Not just with Ava, but with at least 3 other women. Some one-night stands, others longer arrangements. She was shattered, and I was livid. We all rallied around her. Mark and Rachel came over the next morning. Theo dropped off groceries and made her dinner. Lucas moved out within 2 days, and Jess changed her locks. Now here's where it gets messy. A week after the breakup, we planned a healing night for Jess at my place. Movies, wine, comfort food. She seemed a little better. We were sitting on my couch when she suddenly asked, "Have any of you heard from Lucas?" We all said no. She nodded and said, "I think I still love him. I don't know how to stop." We all exchanged glances, but I gently told her it was normal to feel that way, but she deserved someone better. Jess agreed, then added something that didn't sit right with me. "I know he cheated, but it's not like he hit me. People make mistakes." I froze. Rachel gave me a look, and I let it go for the night, but something inside me shifted. 2. Weeks later, I found out through Theo that Jess had met up with Lucas. She hadn't told anyone. She confessed to Theo that they'd talked, cried, even kissed. She said she just needed closure. I was upset, but I didn't say anything until she told me herself a few days later. I asked her directly if she was thinking about taking him back, and she said, "I don't know. Maybe." I told her as kindly as I could that I would support her healing, but I couldn't support her getting back together with someone who had systematically lied, manipulated, and humiliated her for a year. She got defensive. She said, I didn't understand their connection and that I was being judgmental. I reminded her that we had stayed up with her during her panic attacks. We had watched her fall apart. And now she was acting like Lucas just made a little mistake, she snapped. She told me I was acting like her mother, like I thought I knew what was best for everyone. She accused me of projecting because my own marriage was too boring and that I couldn't stand anyone making choices outside of my moral code. I was stunned. She stormed out. A week passed. No word. Then Mark sent me a screenshot from Jess's Instagram. Lucas was in her story. Not a post, not tagged, just his hand across her lap in her car. She had taken him back. We all confronted her. She was furious. She accused us of ganging up on her and not respecting her autonomy. She said she didn't need our approval and that nobody's perfect, that she believed Lucas had changed. I asked her one thing. What has he done to earn your trust back? She said, he said he was sorry. He's been through a lot too. That was it. At that point, I told her I couldn't be part of this anymore. I told her I loved her, but I wasn't going to sit by and watch her self-destruct. And I wasn't going to pretend that Lucas was ever welcome in my home again. She told me I was choosing my pride over our friendship. I said I was choosing boundaries. That was 3 months ago. Since then, Jess has cut me off completely. She still talks to Rachel sometimes and Theo occasionally, but she's drifted from all of us. She posts occasional stories with Lucas, nothing overt, but it's clear they're back together. Now here's where I start to question myself. A few days ago, I ran into a mutual friend of ours, Nora, who isn't really in our core group. She told me she saw Jess and Lucas at a wedding looking really happy. When I told her what had happened, she said, well, it's her life. Maybe she knows something you don't. Love is complicated. That phrase stuck with me. Love is complicated. Am I the a-hole for walking away from my best friend because she went back to a guy who cheated on her? Was I too harsh? Should I have just kept my mouth shut and supported her no matter what? My husband says I did the right thing, that I was protecting myself from being dragged into a toxic mess, but part of me wonders if I gave up too soon, if I judged her when she needed grace. Did I betray my best friend, or just refuse to let her betrayal become mine too? I 32F have 3 siblings, my older brother Jacob, 35M, my younger sister Lily, 30F, and my youngest brother Max, 26M. We grew up in what I would call a very complicated household. My parents weren't abusive or anything like that, but they clearly had favorites and they didn't do a great job of hiding it. Lily was the golden child. Always. From the moment she was born, it was like everything she did was perfect. Straight A's, cheer captain, lead roles in school plays, you name it, she got it. My parents doted on her like she was royalty. Meanwhile, Jacob and I were the ones expected to do chores, help with everything, and never complain. Max, being the baby, got a pass on a lot too, but even he used to roll his eyes at how Lily could do no wrong. Despite all that, we were pretty close as kids, sibling bonding through mutual trauma, I guess. I always had Jacob's back, Max always had mine, and Lily sort of floated above it all like she lived in her own world. She was kind in that detached, privileged way. She never really needed anything from anyone because everything was handed to her. Fast forward to adulthood. Jacob moved out early and joined the military, and now he works in logistics for a big company. I became a registered nurse, Max is in tech, and Lily, after a failed stint at acting, settled into event planning. She works for a luxury wedding firm in the city and lives in a high-rise condo downtown. She's single, no kids, no pets, and seemingly endless free time. I, on the other hand, am married with 2 kids under 6 and a third on the way. My parents still act like Lily walks on water. They never stop talking about her job, how busy and glamorous her life is, how strong she is for staying single and focused on her career. Meanwhile, whenever I talk about my kids, my job, or anything personal, I get lukewarm responses and quick topic changes. Now, to the real issue. Last Thanksgiving, we all gathered at my parents' house. Lily showed up late in a designer dress, carrying 2 pies she had delivered from some upscale bakery. My mom acted like she had just arrived from the royal palace. Everyone oohed and ahed. Meanwhile, I'd spent 2 days baking and prepping side dishes with my husband, and my kids were cranky from missing naps. During dinner, my mom made some passive-aggressive comments about how some people think being a mom is a full-time job, and Lily juggles 10 events a month without breaking a sweat. I let it slide. I was used to it. Then came Christmas. We alternate hosting Christmas. Last year was my turn. I decorated the house from top to bottom, cooked a full dinner, and had gifts for everyone. Lily arrived with a single bottle of wine. And no gift for the kids, not one. She said, "Oh, I thought we weren't doing gifts for the little ones this year," when every single person, including Max and Jacob, had brought something for my 2 boys. I was pissed, but didn't say anything. My mom brushed it off with, "She's just so busy, you know how it is." But the final straw happened 3 months ago. Jacob and his wife are expecting their first baby. We were all thrilled, especially since their fertility journey was long and difficult. They decided to do a gender reveal party, not really my thing. But hey, to each their own, and invited all of us. Jacob asked Lily to help plan it, since she's a professional event planner. She agreed. He told her their only real request was that it be simple, intimate, and not over the top. So imagine our surprise when we showed up to a freaking balloon arch, catered sushi, custom lighting, a DJ, and a dessert table that looked like something out of a wedding. Lily had completely hijacked the party. When Jacob confronted her privately, she said she'd used it as a portfolio opportunity and didn't want it to be boring. She told him it was what people expect from a modern celebration. She even brought her own photographer and asked us to sign releases for promotional use. Jacob was fuming. His wife started crying and had to leave the room. The vibe was completely ruined. What was supposed to be a sweet family moment turned into a branded circus. That night, Jacob called Lily out in the family group chat. He told her she had made the whole thing about herself and that she owed them an apology. Lily didn't respond. The next morning, my mom called me, not Jacob, not Lily, me to scold me for not keeping the peace. She said, as the middle sister, I should be the one to mediate. I told her absolutely not. I said Lily needed to own her actions and that Jacob had every right to be upset. 2 days later, Lily sent me a long message saying I had turned on her and should have backed her up because I know how much pressure she's under. I told her flat out that she had made the party about herself, that she crossed a line, and that I wasn't going to pretend otherwise just to keep the illusion of family harmony. That's when she said something that made my blood boil. She said, "Maybe you're just jealous that I have a career and not just a family to fall back on." I was stunned. I showed the message to my husband and he told me to block her. I didn't block her, but I told her I didn't want to speak to her for a while. Now my parents are furious with me. They say I'm breaking the family apart, and that I need to be the bigger person and apologize to Lily for being too harsh. Max and Jacob are both on my side, but they've been quieter about it. My mom keeps guilt-tripping, me saying things like, "Family is everything," and one day the kids will ask why their aunt doesn't come around. I told her if my kids grow up without knowing the aunt who ignored their birthdays, ruined their uncle's party, and insulted their mother, I'm okay with that. Now I'm getting messages from extended family saying I need to let it go. Because Lily's under stress and she meant well. They say I'm being petty, cold and dramatic. So am I the a-hole for cutting Lily off and refusing to apologize or play peacekeeper in this whole family drama? I, 36F, have always had a complicated relationship with my younger sister Katie, 33F. We weren't always at odds. When we were kids, we were close. She followed me around everywhere, and I loved being the big sister who taught her how to braid hair, climb trees, and sneak extra cookies from the jar. But somewhere around high school, things started to shift. She became rebellious, constantly compared herself to me, and resented any praise I got. Our parents, though well-meaning, definitely reinforced this. I was the responsible one, the straight-A student, the one they never had to worry about. Katie was wild, unpredictable, always in some kind of trouble. So naturally, they poured more attention into fixing her and left me to fend for myself emotionally. I was praised for not needing them. By the time we were adults, we'd drifted into something like polite distance. We'd see each other during holidays, exchange occasional texts, and pretend we had more in common than we really did. I had moved across the country after college for work, while she stayed in our hometown. She went through a rough patch in her 20s, dropped out of school, partied too much, toxic relationships, and I was the one who helped her pay off rent once or twice when she was between jobs. Things started to get better when she met Ben, 35 Mem. He was calm, steady, hard-working. Katie seemed different with him, more grounded, more like the girl I used to know. They started dating seriously, and after 3 years they got married. I flew out for the wedding, gave a speech, cried watching her walk down the aisle. I really believed this would be her turning point, and then something weird happened. A year into their marriage, I started getting texts from Ben. At first, they were totally normal, asking for gift ideas for Katie's birthday or recommendations for a good anniversary trip. But gradually, they got more personal. He'd say things like, "You really seem to understand her better than anyone," or "I feel like I can talk to you more easily than even Katie sometimes." It made me uncomfortable, so I pulled back a bit. I kept my replies brief and neutral. I didn't want to make assumptions or overreact, but something felt off. Then came the night everything changed. I was visiting for Christmas and stayed with them for a few nights. Katie was working late one evening, and Ben and I were home alone. We were watching TV, making small talk, and out of nowhere, he turned to me and said, "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we met first?" I froze. I laughed it off, awkwardly, and said something like, "You're married to my sister, Ben." He didn't back off. He said he always felt a strange connection with me and that he'd tried to ignore it, but it was there. I shut it down hard. I told him it was inappropriate and disrespectful to both me and Katie. I went to my room, locked the door, and left the next morning under the excuse of an early flight. I didn't tell Katie. I debated it for weeks. I didn't want to ruin her marriage over a moment of weakness, and a part of me worried she wouldn't believe me. Ben texted me an apology, said he'd been drunk, he hadn't, and begged me not to tell her. I never responded. For the next year, I kept my distance. I visited less. I kept conversations with both of them short and superficial. Katie noticed. She said I was pulling away and I just blamed it on work. Then 2 months ago, I got a call from Katie. She was sobbing. She said Ben had left her, out of the blue, packed a bag and said he wasn't happy and needed to find himself. She was devastated. I flew out immediately. I stayed with her for a week, helped her move some of his stuff out, listened to her cry, made her food, sat with her while she drank wine, and played sad music at 3 a.m. About a week later, after I was back home, she called me again, but this time she wasn't crying. She was livid. Apparently, Ben had been seeing someone else. She found pictures of them together on social media, on some mutual friends feed. Nothing super PDA heavy, but definitely not platonic. She was furious and heartbroken. She ranted for over an hour. Then, at the very end of the call, she said something that made my stomach drop. "I should have known something was off when he started acting weird around you last year." I asked her what she meant. She said, "I don't know, he always talked about you too much. He used to bring you up in random conversations, and after Christmas last year, you got so distant. I figured something happened." That's when I told her everything. I told her about the night he hit on me, how he asked if I ever thought about us being together, how I shut him down and left the next morning, how I didn't tell her because I didn't want to hurt her. She went silent. For a long time, then she exploded. She said I betrayed her, that I should have told her immediately, that I let her stay with a man who disrespected her and me, that I made her feel crazy for suspecting something when I already knew. She said I was supposed to be her sister, her protector, and instead, I chose to be complicit. I tried to explain. I told her I was trying to protect her, that I didn't want to blow up her marriage based on something I wasn't even sure she'd believe, that Ben manipulated both of us, that I was scared. She said that by staying silent, I chose him over her. She hasn't spoken to me since. Our parents are divided. My mum thinks I should have told her right away. My dad thinks I did the right thing trying to avoid drama. Theo, our cousin, says there's no right answer here, but Katie needs time. It's been weeks. I've sent messages. Nothing angry, just telling her I love her and I'm here when she's ready. But she's read them and not responded. She unfollowed me on everything. And now I'm sitting here wondering, am I the a-hole? I didn't flirt with him. I didn't entertain it. I shut it down and got the hell out. I didn't want to throw a grenade into her life. I was trying to handle it quietly. But maybe that wasn't my call to make. Did I betray my sister by keeping it secret? Or did I do what any decent person would do, remove myself from the situation and avoid causing more pain? I still don't know if I lost her for good. I, 29M, have always been the good child in my family. I'm not saying that to brag. I'm saying it because it's important context. My older brother, Jake, 34M, has always been the troublemaker. He's the one who got in trouble with the law, flunked out of college, went through a string of short relationships and generally gave my parents a lot of stress. Meanwhile, I stayed out of trouble, got a good job, married my high school sweetheart, and always followed the rules. Growing up, I was the perfect child. Not because I was perfect, but because I didn't want to be the source of my parents' disappointment. I knew my brother was getting all the attention, and while I loved him, it sometimes felt like I was invisible. I didn't mind. Really, I didn't. I just wanted to make sure my parents were proud of me, and they seemed so focused on Jake that I took it as my job to keep things together. Jake, on the other hand, resented the attention I was getting. He didn't like how I was constantly praised for being responsible and mature. We fought a lot when we were younger, and I'll admit, I was probably insufferable about it. I didn't have the same struggles as he did, and I was quick to remind him that I was doing the right thing with my life. Eventually, Jake moved out and tried to live on his own, bouncing from place to place. I was already settled into my life with my wife, Sam, 28F, and we were in the process of saving up for a house. It wasn't always easy, but we were happy, and I thought everything was going well. But then, a few months ago, Jake's life took a turn. He reached out to me asking for help. I knew something serious must have been going on because Jake didn't ask for help unless things were bad. He told me that he had fallen into a bad crowd, gotten involved with drugs, and ended up in serious debt. I felt bad for him, but I also knew that I couldn't let him drag me or my family down with him, but I also didn't want to turn my back on him. I talked to Sam about it, and we decided that we would help him, but only on the condition that he went to rehab. I told him that I would pay for his treatment, but he had to promise to stick with it, and we wouldn't give him any money otherwise. I thought this was a fair deal. He needed to help himself before I could truly help him. He agreed and we paid for his rehab, but Jake didn't stick with it. A month into treatment, he dropped out. He said it wasn't for him, that it felt like a waste of time, and that he could handle it on his own. I was furious. Sam was heartbroken. We had invested so much time and money into helping him, and he threw it away. I tried to talk to him, but he just kept saying the same thing. He didn't need it. I stopped talking to him for a while after that. Sam and I decided that we couldn't keep enabling him. We were done bailing him out. We cut ties for a few months, hoping that Jake would get the message and start working on himself. But eventually he reached out again. This time he wasn't asking for rehab money. Instead, he was asking if he could crash at our place for a while. He had nowhere else to go, and he was in even more debt than before. This time I was torn. Sam was against it. She didn't want Jake staying with us, especially after everything that had happened. But I felt guilty. I knew that he was in a rough place, and I didn't want to be the one to turn my back on him completely. We had always been close growing up, and I didn't want to lose him entirely. I talked to Sam, and after a long conversation, we agreed that Jake could stay with us, but only on the condition that he respected our house rules. He had to contribute around the house, and make an effort to find a job. We also agreed that he would need to attend therapy or counseling for his addiction issues. At first, things went well. Jake seemed genuinely motivated to get his life back. Together, he applied for jobs, started attending therapy, and even helped around the house. Sam and I felt hopeful, like maybe we had finally made the right decision, but then things started to unravel again. A few weeks in, we found out that Jake had been sneaking out at night and using again. He'd been lying about going to therapy, saying he'd had sessions when he hadn't. Sam found some pills in his jacket pocket and confronted him. He denied everything at first, but eventually admitted he'd been using behind our backs. Sam was furious. I was disappointed, but also heartbroken. We had trusted him. We had opened our home to him, and he had betrayed that trust. It felt like we were back at square one, only this time it was worse because he had lied to us. That was the last straw. I told Jake that he had to leave. I told him we couldn't keep enabling him. He had one more chance, and he blew it. He argued with me, said I was being too harsh, that I wasn't giving him enough credit for trying, but I didn't care anymore. I told him to leave, and I told him that I couldn't help him unless he truly wanted to change. He left that night. I thought I was doing the right thing. Sam thought I was doing the right thing. But then, my parents found out. They were livid. They accused me of being too harsh on Jake. They said I should have been more understanding, that he needed my support more than ever. They claimed I was just pushing him away, and that I was turning my back on family. I tried to explain that I had given Jake every opportunity to turn his life around, but they didn't want to hear it. They said I was abandoning my brother, and that I would regret it. Now I'm left questioning everything. I still believe I did the right thing by kicking him out. He lied to me, used me, and didn't take responsibility for his actions. But now, my parents are upset with me, and I feel like I'm in a position where I have to choose between them and Jake. Am I the a-hole for kicking my brother out and cutting him off after all the chances I gave him? Should I have been more forgiving? Did I go too far? I, 28F, have had the same best friend, Tessa, 28F, since we were 12 years old. We went through middle school, high school, and even college together. We were inseparable for most of our lives, bridesmaids for each other, co-parents to each, others' dogs, and the type of friends who knew each other's families and inside jokes like the back of our hands. Tessa has always had a turbulent love life. She falls fast, loves hard, and crashes even harder. I, on the other hand, have been with my husband, Marcus, 30 me, since college. He's a stable, grounded guy, works in software engineering, and is honestly the calm to my chaos. He's always been cool with how close Tessa and I are, even though he's admitted a few times that she drains his energy. In the last couple of years, Tessa went through a rough breakup with a guy she thought she was going to marry. After that, she sort of fell apart, quit her job, bounced from short-term gigs, couch-surfed for a while, and eventually ended up staying with me and Marcus for what was supposed to be 2 weeks. That turned into 5 months. At first, it was fine. She was heartbroken and I wanted to be there for her. But she didn't just crash on the couch. She took over the living room, left laundry everywhere, helped herself to our groceries, and never once offered to pitch in on bills or even clean up. Marcus was patient for the first 2 months, but by month 3 he started getting snippy about it. I kept defending her. She's going through a hard time, she just needs a little longer. But then things got weird. Tessa started doing this thing where she'd linger when Marcus got home. She'd sit really close when we all watched TV, laugh a little too loudly at his jokes, ask him for tech help with random stuff late at night, things like that. Marcus told me once, kind of awkwardly, that he felt like Tessa was flirting with him. I brushed it off. I honestly thought he was misreading the situation. Tessa would never do that, or so I thought. A few weeks after that conversation, I came home early from work. Marcus wasn't due back for another hour. Tessa was sitting at the kitchen table in one of my oversized sweaters, drinking coffee, clearly, just out of the shower. She smiled and said, "You're home early," in a way that made my stomach drop. I asked her if she was okay, and she said, "Better than I've been in a long time." That same night, I checked our shared desktop because I needed to print something, and I found a series of messages open in one of her tabs, drafts of unsent texts to Marcus. Things like, "Do you ever wonder what life would be like if we had met first?" And you're the kind of man I always wanted. Maybe I'm just too late. I didn't say anything that night, but I couldn't sleep. The next morning, I confronted her. She denied everything at first, said I was reading into things, that the drafts were just therapeutic writing. I told her she needed to leave. She cried, begged me to let her stay a little longer, said she had nowhere else to go. Marcus stayed quiet during the whole confrontation. He looked guilty, which made me spiral. When I asked him directly if anything had happened between them, he swore on everything that it hadn't. That she was flirty, yes, but he never encouraged it. I wanted to believe him. I did believe him. But the whole thing left a crack in my trust. Tessa left 2 days later, and we didn't talk for almost a year. Now here's where things get complicated. 8 months ago, I found out I was pregnant with our first child. We hadn't been trying, but we weren't preventing either, and it felt like perfect timing. I started reaching out to old friends and family I'd grown distant from, trying to rebuild my village. I even messaged Tessa. I missed her, and maybe, naively, I thought becoming a mum gave me new perspective. She responded instantly, said she missed me too, and we slowly started texting again. She never apologized for what happened. Not really. She just said, things got messy and I didn't know how to handle it, but I wanted to move forward. When I was 6 months pregnant, I invited her to the baby shower. She came, brought a gift, and seemed genuinely happy for me. We hugged, for the first time in a year, and it felt like things might actually be okay again. Marcus stayed polite but distant, which I didn't blame him for. Then, 2 weeks after the shower, I got a message from another old friend, Lena, asking me if I'd heard what Tessa had said at the party. Apparently, Tessa told several people that she and Marcus had a moment when she lived with us, and that if I hadn't come home early that one day, something might have happened. Lena said she didn't want to stir the pot, but thought I deserved to know. I was livid. I confronted Tessa again, this time more angrily than before. I told her I thought we were starting fresh and asked why she'd lie and spread rumors. She claimed it was taken out of context, that she was just joking, and people were being dramatic. I didn't believe her. I told her to never contact me again, blocked her on everything, and told Marcus what happened. He was furious, not just at her but at me too, for letting her back in when he'd been so uncomfortable from the beginning. Now here's where the am I the a-hole part comes in. My mum thinks I overreacted. She says Tessa's just lonely, that she's always been dramatic, and that cutting her off completely while she's struggling is heartless. She reminded me that Tessa was like family for years and that friends fight, but you're adults now. A few mutual friends agree. They think I'm being too harsh, too black and white about a grey situation, that people make mistakes, and Tessa never actually did anything with Marcus, so what's the big deal? Even Marcus said, I don't want her around, but I also don't think she's evil. She's just messed up. But to me, it's about boundaries. She overstepped, lied, spread rumors, and tried to wedge herself into my relationship. She made my husband feel uncomfortable in his own home and put my trust in him and in her through a grinder. Twice, that's not a friend. That's someone who sees your life and wants to take it from you. And yet, I still feel guilty sometimes. I see old photos of us and wonder if I'm being cold, if I let a friendship of 16 years die because of a rough patch. But then I remember how it felt to find those messages, how it felt to hear she'd been talking about my marriage behind my back, how she looked me in the eye and lied like it was nothing. So am I the a-hole for cutting off my best friend permanently for what she did and almost did to my marriage? I, 34F, was raised in what I would have called a pretty normal middle-class family. My dad, 68M, worked in maintenance and construction his whole life. My mum, 66F, was a nurse, and I have 2 younger brothers, Ethan, 32M, and Kyle, 29M. We weren't rich, but we weren't struggling either. My parents were always practical with money. We went on camping trips instead of vacations, had family dinners every Sunday, and wore hand-me-downs until high school. My dad always emphasized fairness. That was his thing. What I do for one, I'll do for the other, he used to say. He bought each of us a used car when we turned 17. He helped pay part of our college tuition equally, even though I went to a cheaper school and Kyle got scholarships. He made it clear we'd be treated the same, no favorites. That was until a few months ago. So here's some context. My parents retired 5 years ago and moved to a smaller town where they bought a modest house outright and started doing little side gigs for fun. Gardening, fixing up furniture, that kind of thing. My mom volunteers part-time at a clinic, and my dad still helps neighbors with their houses. Nothing big. They always seemed comfortable. I live about 2 hours away with my husband, Ben, 36M, and our 6-year-old daughter, Lila. Ethan lives about 3 hours away with his wife, Jasmine, 33F, and their twin boys. Kyle, on the other hand, lives only 15 minutes from our parents. Now, growing up, Kyle was always the baby. He was the surprise kid. My mom got pregnant with him in her late 30s. He was cute, a little spoiled, and got away with more than Ethan or I ever could. But my parents swore up and down that they didn't play favorites. For the past 3 years, Kyle's been living with our parents. At first, it was supposed to be temporary. He was laid off, his lease ended, and he said he just needed a few months to regroup. My parents let him move into the finished basement. No rent, just help around the house. 3 years later, he's still there. He works part-time doing freelance graphic design and helps my dad with small projects. But he doesn't pay bills, doesn't contribute to groceries, and only recently started buying his own stuff. Whenever I bring it up to my parents, they brush it off. He's saving up. He's helping your dad. He'll move out soon. Fast forward to 4 months ago. My parents sat all 3 of us down, me, Ethan, and Kyle, and said they wanted to discuss their will. I was expecting a pretty even split. They own their home outright, have some retirement savings, and a small inheritance from my mom's side. Nothing huge, but enough that we'd each get a decent sum when the time came. Except, that's not what they said. They told us they were leaving the house and a larger share of their savings to Kyle. Specifically 60% to him, and the remaining 40% split between Ethan and me. I was speechless. Ethan just said, "Wait, what?" And Kyle sat there smugly, like he knew this was coming. My dad explained it like this. "Kyle has been here taking care of us. He's helping with the property. He's making our lives easier. It's only fair." I said, "But you told us your whole lives that you were going to split everything equally." And my mom jumped in with, "Circumstances change. You and Ethan have your own families. Kyle doesn't. He's dedicated his time to us." I asked if Kyle was being paid to help around the house, or if he was just getting free rent, and now a bigger inheritance on top of it. My dad got defensive and said it wasn't about money. It was about support and presence. Ethan said, "So what? We're being punished for not living at home at 30. Kyle said, "You guys haven't been around. I'm the one who's here when they need something." I pointed out that Kyle lives there. He doesn't work full-time, he doesn't pay rent, and he's never had a long-term relationship. It's not like he sacrificed a stable life to care for aging parents. He just never left. That turned the conversation sour. My dad told us we were being ungrateful, and my mom said, "This is exactly why we didn't want to talk about this before." A few days later, I tried to call my mom privately and explain how this felt. I said I loved them and appreciated everything they'd done. But the will situation made me feel like my efforts, working full-time, raising a family, checking in every week, meant nothing. She just said, "We're not taking anything away from you. You'll still get something, but Kyle needs it more." The thing is, Kyle doesn't need it more. He's just more comfortable being dependent. A week later, Ethan and I talked about it, and he admitted he was furious too. Jasmine was even more upset. She said it felt like a slap in the face after everything they'd done to stay connected with my parents. They visit 4 or 5 times a year, even with the twins. They call every Sunday. But it still doesn't matter because Kyle gets the golden prize for proximity. I tried again one more time to talk to my dad. I laid everything out. How I felt lied to. How unfair it was to change the entire plan without a discussion. How this felt less like rewarding Kyle and more like punishing the rest of us. He told me, "You're not entitled to our money." I told him, "You're right, I'm not. But don't expect me to pretend this is okay." That led to us not talking for almost 2 months. My mom finally broke the silence by sending me a photo of my childhood dog, who passed away years ago, and said she missed me. I said I missed her too, but I still felt hurt. She told me to focus on the fact that we'd all get something. Now, here's where things get complicated. I recently found out from Mark, a cousin of ours who's a financial advisor, that my parents didn't just leave more to Kyle, they made him executor of the will, gave him early access to some of their accounts in case of emergency, and are planning to co-sign a mortgage on a second property with him this year. As in, they're going to help him buy his own house before they even pass away. I lost it. I called my mom and said, "Are you giving Kyle his inheritance early while the rest of us just sit and watch?" She said, "It's not his inheritance. It's a loan for his future." I said, "You've never offered to co-sign anything for me. You never helped Ethan buy a house." She said, "You both had partners. You had more support." I said, "So now being single is a disability?" We argued loudly. She hung up on me, and now we're not speaking again. Ethan is on my side. Jasmine too. Ben, my husband, says he saw this coming. He always thought Kyle was the golden child, even if it wasn't obvious at first. Now I'm stuck. My parents are alive and healthy. And this isn't about a will that's been executed. It's about promises that were made and then broken without warning. It's about fairness. It's about feeling like no matter what I do, it's never going to be enough because Kyle is their default favorite, their loyal son, even if his loyalty is just convenience. But here's the thing. I'm wondering if I am the a-hole for making such a big deal out of this. Kyle says I'm greedy, that I'm mad because I want more money, that I don't understand the pressure of being the only one who stayed. My mum says I'm creating distance for no reason, that I'm punishing them for taking care of their own. My dad won't even talk to me right now. He told Ethan that I'm disrespectful and acting entitled. Am I the a-hole for being upset that my parents are giving my brother more, both now and in their will, just because he never moved out? I, 28F, have been married to my husband, Jake, 31, for 4 years, and we've been together for almost 7. We met in college, fell in love quickly, and for the most part, I've always thought we had a pretty solid relationship. We communicate well, or so I thought. We rarely fight about anything major, and we generally support each other's goals and dreams. That's why what I'm about to say feels like such a betrayal, because it came so completely out of left. Feel that I still don't know if I'm processing it correctly. Last month I found out that Jake cheated on me, not just once, multiple times, over the course of about a year, and I didn't find out because he told me. I found out because his affair partner, or should I say former affair partner, messaged me on Instagram. Her name is Rachel. She's 25, and she works at the same law firm Jake does, though in a different department. According to her, they started hooking up at an after-work happy hour where things got a little too flirty and ended up back at her apartment. She claims that she didn't know he was married at first, and when she found out, she broke things off. But then, a few months later, they started up again. This time she did know, and she didn't care. Her message to me was long, surprisingly, apologetic and filled with screenshots, texts between her and Jake, selfies he sent her, one picture of him in our bed while I was out of town visiting my sister, another of a necklace I gave him for his birthday, the one he claimed he lost last fall, that he apparently left at her place. She didn't send this to be vindictive, she said. She sent it because she'd recently started dating someone new, and it made her feel so guilty that she'd been the other woman, knowingly or not, and that I didn't deserve to be in the dark. She didn't want to start her next relationship with that guilt weighing on her. When I read her message, I sat frozen for at least 5 minutes, heart pounding in my chest like I'd run a marathon. It felt like a prank, like someone was messing with me. Jake and I had literally just gone on a weekend trip 2 weeks before, and everything had felt perfect. He was affectionate, kind, attentive. There were zero signs that anything like this was happening. I didn't even respond to Rachel at first. I just sat with it, looked at the screenshots over and over again, trying to see if any of them were faked. If the timestamps lined up with anything suspicious, I remembered. But the more I looked, the more it became undeniable. It was real. Jake had been cheating on me. And not just in a moment of drunken weakness. He'd pursued and maintained a relationship with someone else while married to me. He lied to my face dozens of times, kissed me goodnight after coming back from sleeping with her, told me he loved me while he was sneaking off to spend nights in her apartment. I finally confronted him 3 days later. I waited until a Friday evening because I didn't want to deal with it on a work night. I was calm, much calmer than I expected to be. I showed him the messages. I showed him the photos. At first, he denied everything. He said the photos were old, that Rachel was crazy, that she was obsessed with him and had been trying to ruin our marriage. But the messages were too specific. He eventually cracked, cried, apologized, said he didn't mean to fall into it, that it just kept going. And he didn't know how to stop without hurting anyone. That phrase, "without hurting anyone," just about sent me through the roof. As if he was protecting me by continuing to lie and cheat and sneak around behind my back. For the first few days, I couldn't even look at him. I slept in the guest room. I didn't tell anyone. Not my family, not my friends. I just sat in the mess of it all, feeling like my life had been yanked out from under me. And then I started asking myself the question I never thought I'd be asking so soon into my marriage. Do I leave? Or do I try to fix it? Jake was begging me to stay. He said he was done with Rachel. He said it was the biggest mistake of his life, that he loved me, that he wanted to go to therapy to prove he could rebuild my trust. And he didn't just say the words, he followed through. He scheduled us for couples counseling. He started going to solo therapy. He cut off all contact with Rachel. I verified it. He became an open book, offered up his phone, his email, his location. I still wasn't convinced, but part of me couldn't help wondering if people could change, if there was a path back from this. I loved him. I still do. And that was the worst part. I didn't want to throw away 7 years just like that. I wanted to believe he meant it, so I didn't leave. Not yet. Here's where the situation gets murkier. About 2 weeks ago, I told my best friend Cara, 29F, what had happened. We've been best friends since high school and she's basically family to me. She was horrified, of course, and furious. But then she said something that made my stomach drop. Wait, Rachel? Rachel P? The paralegal? I said yes. Cara went pale. She told me that she knew Rachel. They'd gone to the same yoga studio, were in the same friend group for a while, and Cara had warned me about her years ago. Apparently, she'd developed a bit of a reputation for hooking up with taken men. Boyfriends, husbands, didn't matter. Cara had even seen her flirting with a married guy at a friend's birthday party. Then Cara said something else. I hate to say this, but I'm not totally sure she reached out to you out of guilt. I think she reached out to blow up Jake's life because he finally chose you over her. And that just made me spiral all over again. I started questioning the entire timeline. Did Rachel actually end things with Jake when she found out he was married? Or did he start distancing himself from her, and then she sent me the messages to burn it all down? Was she reaching out because she genuinely felt bad, or was it revenge disguised as remorse? It shouldn't matter, right? The issue is Jake's cheating, but somehow it does matter to me, because if Rachel was still hoping Jake would leave me for her, then that means he wasn't just a cheater. He was stringing her along too. And if that's the case, and who the hell is this man I married? Anyway, word has started to get out now. Cara told a few of our mutual friends, with my permission, and the responses have been split. Some people are supportive and tell me it's good I'm trying to work it out, that couples do recover from infidelity. Others are shocked I haven't left already. One even told me that staying with a cheater makes me complicit in my own humiliation. My sister, who I finally told last weekend, is absolutely livid. She said Jake should be grateful I haven't lit his stuff on fire and kicked him out. She can't believe I'm even considering staying, and she told me that if I don't leave him soon, she's not sure how she's going to look at me the same way. That hurt more than I expected. So now I'm in this limbo. I haven't made a decision yet. We're still going to therapy. Jake is still trying, really trying, but I don't know if I'll ever be able to trust him again. I don't know if I'll ever stop seeing the look on Rachel's face in those photos. I don't know if every time he comes home late, I'll be checking the time, wondering if it's happening again. Part of me still wants to believe people make mistakes, that love can survive betrayal. But another part of me wonders if staying makes me weak. If I'm showing people, my sister, my friends, maybe even myself, that I don't value my worth enough to walk away from someone who threw it all away for a year of sneaking around. So, Reddit. Am I the a-hole for not leaving my husband immediately after finding out he cheated? I, 27F, have had the same group of best friends since college. There's me, my best friend of almost 10 years, Anna, 28F, and our mutual friends Leah, 27F, Casey, 28M, and Mark, 29M. We all went to the same university, ended up in the same dorms, had classes together, and just never drifted apart after graduation. We've been each other's support system through everything. Job changes, breakups, family drama, you name it. For the most part, we're tight-knit. And though we've all gone through phases where we're closer to some than others, the five of us have always been like family. I lived with Anna and Leah in a house right after college, and Casey and Mark were always around. It was like having siblings without all the childhood trauma. I genuinely thought we'd be in each other's weddings someday. Maybe even raise kids who grew up as friends, which is why I'm still reeling from what happened, and how everything imploded in a way that makes me question whether I ever knew my friends at all. The story starts last year. I'd always suspected that something might be going on between Anna and Casey. They were flirty in a way that was right on the edge of normal for friends. You know the type. Inside jokes that no one else gets, late-night texts, way too many tagged memes, but they never admitted anything. And whenever anyone joked about them being a couple, they'd laugh and deny it. At the time, I chalked it up to chemistry. Some people are just naturally like that, and I didn't want to be the insecure or jealous friend who projected something that wasn't there. Besides, Casey had been dating a girl named Harper for almost 3 years. She wasn't part of our core group, but we saw her sometimes at parties or double dates, and Anna had dated a few guys on and off, but nothing serious. So imagine my surprise when, one weekend this past summer, I went to visit my parents out of town for a few days, and when I came back, everything felt weird. It was little things. Anna being distant, Casey avoiding eye contact, Leah acting awkward around both of them. I asked what was going on, and no one gave me a straight answer. A few days later, Mark called me and said, "Hey, just so you know, Casey and Anna hooked up while you were gone." I was stunned. Apparently, they'd been drinking, everyone was hanging out at Anna's place, Harper was out of town, and Anna and Casey ended up hooking up. But it wasn't a one-time mistake. It had continued, multiple times. And the worst part? Everyone in our friend group knew except for me. Leah found out the next day. Mark found out shortly after. No one told me because, as it turns out, Anna had asked them not to tell me. She said she was still figuring things out and didn't want to make it a thing until she and Casey knew what they were doing. I was furious. Not just because of the hookup, though that sucked, but because I was left out of the loop in my own friend group. Everyone else had this massive secret and was walking around pretending like things were normal. I confronted Anna first. She admitted it. She said she and Casey had developed feelings and that they'd crossed a line but didn't mean to hurt anyone. I asked her about Harper, and she said they were basically done anyway. When I pointed out that nobody told me what was going on, she got defensive and said, "It wasn't about you. That was the first time in 10 years that I felt like I didn't even recognize her." Casey reached out too, apologized, and said he knew it looked bad but that it just happened, and he didn't want to make it public until he'd talked to Harper. I asked him if he was still seeing Harper while sleeping with Anna, and he said, only at the beginning. That didn't make me feel better, not even a little. I took a step back from the group for a while. I wasn't sure what upset me more, the betrayal, the secrecy, or the fact that when I expressed how hurt I was, everyone acted like I was being dramatic. Leah said, "I get why you're upset, but it's not like they owed you anything." Even Mark, who I thought was on my side, said, "It's messy, but they're adults." After a few weeks, Anna and Casey officially became a couple. They soft-launched it on Instagram with some cute photo at a pumpkin patch, and everyone in the comments was like, "OMG, finally!" like it was some love story that had been building forever. Meanwhile, I was sitting there thinking, did everyone just forget how this started? Harper, by the way, was devastated. She and Casey broke up, obviously, and she ended up blocking him and Anna. I reached out to her privately to tell her I was sorry about everything, and she thanked me. But I could tell she was done with anyone even remotely associated with the situation. Then something happened that made everything 10 times worse. I started dating someone new. His name's Eli, 29 Mem. We met at work, hit it off, and things got serious pretty quickly. After a couple months, I started bringing him around. The group, or at least what was left of it. He met Leah and Mark and got along great, but Anna and Casey, cold, distant, dismissive. At first I thought maybe it was just awkwardness from the fallout, but then one night Anna pulled me aside and said, "Look, I don't want to sound harsh, but do you really think Eli's the right guy for you?" I asked what she meant, and she said, "He just seems really bland, like I don't see the spark. And you always said you wanted someone more ambitious." I was stunned. This was my best friend, taking digs at someone I was clearly excited about, and for no reason other than, what? Bitterness. Guilt. I brushed it off. But then Casey made a similar comment a week later, saying, "Eli's kind of a safe pick." Huh? Like the human version of a beige couch. That was the last straw. I finally snapped and said, "You know what? At least I didn't cheat on my girlfriend with my best friend and lie about it for months." That led to a massive blowout. With Casey accusing me of bringing up old drama and Anna saying I was holding a grudge because I miss being the center of attention. I left the dinner in tears. Now here's where the moral dilemma comes in. I've stopped talking to Anna and Casey altogether. We don't follow each other anymore. The friend group, as it was, is basically dead. Leah tries to stay neutral and Mark still checks in, but it's clear that everything has changed. And yet, a few weeks ago I was talking to another mutual friend from college, someone who wasn't in our core group but knew all of us, and I told her everything. The cheating, the lying, the way they treated Harper, the digs at Eli. She was shocked. And apparently, she told a few other people. Now it's gotten back to Anna and Casey that I've been trashing them behind their backs. Anna texted me a long message saying she thought I was better than this, that she understands. I was hurt, but spreading drama a year later is immature and vindictive. Casey sent me an even shorter one. "You're really out here trying to ruin our lives for clout." So now I'm sitting here wondering, am I the a-hole for telling people the truth about what happened, even if it makes Anna and Casey look bad? Should I have just let it go and moved on? They were my friends once, and I don't want to be someone who holds on to grudges forever. But I also feel like I was gaslit for months, and when I finally told the truth, I was painted as petty. Reddit. Am I the a-hole for exposing my former friend's secret relationship even a year later?